by reference, call by value, or call by value and call by reference. These are the two methods by which you can call a function. Till now we have seen the concepts of functions, how we call a function, that means a function call. Now the method that we use for function call, till now the method that we have been using for a function call is known as call by value, right? So this is one method of calling a function. The another method of calling a function is known as call by reference. So the method which we have been doing till now is known as call by value of calling a function. To see how we have done it or what we have done it, you can check out my previous videos. The link I will give in the description box of this video. So basically, we have seen that till now whenever we have called a function and we have passed the arguments while calling a function, we have always created new variables for the arguments in the function and then passed the values of actual arguments to them, right? This I will illustrate with the help of an example. Say for example, so the first method or the first case of calling a function that we are going to see is known as the call by value. Okay, so we are seeing call by value. Here we will see an example program that we will see is a program to multiply. This is a program to multiply two numbers. So how we will perform this? Now we will begin our program with the library function include stdio dot h. Then we have our main. Within main we have three arguments, the global variables which we call x, y and z. So I have declared three variables named as x, y and z whose data type is integer, and these are the actual arguments I am talking of. These are the actual arguments whose values will be passed while calling the function, right? Now I will make the function declaration or the function prototype. Int is the data type, function type or the return type of the function, null is the name of the function, and then two variables are passed here, two arguments are passed here whose data type will be integer. So as I told you earlier also that while making the function declaration you do not need to specify the name of the argument or the name of the variable. There is no compulsion on doing that, though if you wish to you can write the variable name here, but you must specify the data type of the arguments like this, right? So this is your function declaration. Just like you declare variables, you declare the function also before using it. Now within the main I say printf enter the two numbers. Enter those two numbers whose multiplication you wish to find. So that means enter the two numbers. Now this will be printed as it is on the screen. Then the user will enter some values. So you will store those values in their respective variables using scanf. So you will say percentage D, because two variables I am scanning, so percentage D 2 times. So ampersand X and ampersand Y means the values of those variables those values will be stored in the location where the variable X and Y are allocated memory. Next, a variable Z equals to mul xy. Now this is the function call, and during the call you have passed the actual arguments. You have passed the actual arguments X and Y, and the result of this function, that means whatever value will be returned by this function will be stored here in the variable Z. That is why I said Z equals to mul xy, or Z equals to the function call. So after the function call, whatever value the function will return, that will be stored in the variable Z, and X and Y here are the actual arguments which are passed during the function call. Now after this you say printf the product of two numbers is percentage D, and where will this percentage D take its value from? From the variable Z. So this is the main. Now we come to the function which will perform the multiplication. So this is the function to multiply two numbers, right? So I say int mul, then int a. Now here you can see int a and int b are the new variables. This a and b are the new variables which have been created for arguments x and y during the function call, and the values of these arguments x and y will be passed on to these variables a and b respectively. Okay, so within the function what I do, I create a variable c, then I say c equals to a into b, then I say return c. The moment I say return c, the value is returned to z. Okay, when I make a function call, that is at this point you can see I made the function call. So the control immediately skips the next line. This was the next line after z equals to mul xy, but the compiler skips this line and the control immediately goes to the function which is called. After the function is called, it goes to the function which is called, the processing is done, and the moment you say return, after encountering the return statement, the control goes back to the statement from where it had left. So it had left at this point. Now after this, that means Z will collect the value of the multiplication. Say for example the result of multiplication is 6. So Z will collect the value 6. If x is equals to 2 and y is equals to 3, then in that case a will be 2 because the value of x is passed to a, and b will be 3 because the value of y is passed to 3, and c will have the result of multiplication which is equals to 6, and since at the point of returning z is collecting the value, so z will be 6. So that means z is equals to 6. So the control comes here, and from here it then executes the next statement. So when I say printf, it will say the product of two numbers is 6. So this is how it is happening. Now first of all, I told you we will discuss the advantage of this. What is the advantage of call by value? The advantage is that it is quite simple. The mechanism here is quite simple for a layman to understand. You are simply passing the values. So there is no confusion. You know which value is being passed to which variable, and there is no complexity. So this is the advantage of using call by value method. The disadvantage, if I talk of, the disadvantage of the call by value method is that first of all, you have a separate memory allocation for each of the variable. For each variable you have separate memory allocation, like you saw that x was the actual argument, y was the actual argument, and z was the actual argument. A and B were the variables which were created at the time of function call. Now A was holding the same value which x was passing to it, B was holding the same value which y was passing to it, and z was storing the same value that C had returned to it. That means for three different values, 6 memory allocations were made, right? We had 3 values, but for those 3 data values, 6 memory allocations were being made. So separate memory allocation for each variable was being done, which is basically unnecessary utilization. You can say that this leads to unnecessary utilization of memory. Yes, you have just 3 values, but for 3 values, those 3 values you are allocating 6 memory spaces. So that means unnecessary utilization of memory. The second disadvantage is that the changes that you make to the variables, changes to variables or arguments which are made in the function, any changes that you make to the variables in the function are not reflected in the calling function. These changes are not reflected in the calling function. Now first of all, we will see the first disadvantage through a diagrammatic representation. I'll make you understand how this is a disadvantage. See, say for example, within the main you have created space for two variables x and y. Then you have created space for a variable c which will be storing the result, right? So these variables are known as the actual arguments. These are the actual arguments which are declared in the main. Then you have the function which is being called, that is the mul function. So the variables which are created for this function are known as the formal arguments. So this space which has been allocated for these arguments is on a temporary basis. That means the moment a return is encountered, the moment a return statement is encountered, the memory for these variables will be deallocated. But even on a temporary basis, you are allocating memory space to separate variables. So in the function mul, you saw that you had a variable a, so a separate space for that variable, then variable b, a separate space for that variable, and then the variable c, a separate space for that variable. In the main function you had the variable z, right? Now when within main you say enter two numbers, right? The moment the display screen says enter two numbers, and say for example you enter the two numbers as 2 and 3, that means 2 is stored within the variable x and 3 is stored within the variable y, right? Now when you make a function call and pass the arguments and x and y in the function call, so the moment a function call is made and the control goes to the header of the function, a separate memory is first of all created for the variable a, then for the variable b, and then when you go inside the function and declare a function variable as integer c, a separate memory is created for this variable c. Now during the time of function call, when the arguments are passed, that means x is passed on to a, that means the value of x 2 is passed on to a. Then y is passed on to b, that means the value of y, that is 3, is passed on to b. That is why we call it call by value. Okay, now after the processing, the result of multiplication, that is 2 into 3, which is equals to 6, is stored here in C. Now the moment you store it in C, you say return C. So the moment return C is made, this statement is made, the memory space for these two variables is deallocated. That means now there is no more memory space for these two variables, or the memory space is freed now. So this was on a temporary basis, but even then memory has been utilized on an unnecessary basis. Now moment and also for this C, the memory is deallocated. Now this value is then passed on to the variable z, and z is storing the value 6, and finally you display the result and say the output or the result of multiplication is 6. So this is what is happening in actual. These formal arguments are destroyed the moment a return statement is encountered, and they are created the moment a function call is made. So this is the first disadvantage, that unnecessary memory utilization is there. Then second disadvantage I told you is that whatever changes to the arguments or variables are made in the function, that means any changes to variables in the function, that is the function which you are calling, is not reflected in main, right? Those changes are not reflected in main. Now to understand this, I will show you one more example. Say for example, I have a program to swap two numbers. If I have a program to swap two numbers, how will I do that? Again, I will have the library function stdio.h, then my main, within main, then I have two integer variables which I have declared and initialized at the same time. I say x equals to 2 and y equals to 3. Then I say void swap int comma int. This you can see is the function declaration, where void is the return type of the function. That means the function is not returning any values. Swap is the name of the function, and int shows that there are two variables which will be passed, or two arguments which will be passed to this function, whose data type will be integer, right? Now within main I say print f values before swapping are %d %d. So the actual values are x and y. Now after swap, now to swap these two values or to exchange these two values, what I do, I call the function swap and pass x and y as arguments. So this is my function call. Right? Now after the function call, I say printf values after swapping are %d x y. Okay, so this is the main function. Now if I talk of the function which will be doing the task of swapping, void swap. So I do the swapping within this function, then I say int a and int b. So int a and b are my formal arguments. Now I declare a variable t. Now how do I do the swapping? I say t equals to a. That means t will store the value of a. Then a will be given the value of b. B will be given the value of t. And then I finish swapping. Now here you can see that a is passed the value of x and b is passed the value of y. That means basically a is having value 2 and b is having value 3. Right? Now after swapping, I want that a should have value 3 and b should have value 2. This is what I want after swapping. So this is what I am doing over here. I initialize a variable t. So variable t as of now is not having anything. But then when I say t equals to a, that means t will have the value 2. Then I say t is having the value of a. Now give a the value of b. That means b will have 3. Now I say give b the value which t is having, which is basically the value of a. So b is having 2 now. So after swapping, I can see this is what I wanted to have. B is having the value of a and a is having the value of 2. That is a equals to 3 and b equals to 2. But since I am not returning it, nowhere have I returned this value. Also the function type is void here. So that means I have not returned value. So in that case, x and y, there are no changes made to the value of x and y in main. Though these changes were made here in the function, but these changes were not reflected in the main. So when I print, the output that you can see here is since the values were not returned, so these changes were made on a temporary basis in the function main. But these changes were made on a temporary basis in the function swap, but they were not reflected in main. And the moment I came out of the function, the moment I came out of the function and went to main, those variables were destroyed, and so the changes were also not saved. So if x equals to 2, that value is passed down to a. If y equals to 3, that value is passed on to b, right? Now after swapping, after the values of a in function swap, a and b are swapped like this. This is how I have swapped the values. T is a temporary variable which is storing the value of a and then giving the value of a to b, and b is giving the value its own value to 3. This is how you are doing the task of swapping using a temporary variable. Now that means a is 3 now, b is 2. So these changes now should be reflected in the actual arguments x and y. In the main, x and y should also become 3 and 2. But this is not happening. In main, x and y are still 2 and 3. So when you save values, if you run this program, you will see that values before swap are 2 and 3, and then values after swap are also 2 and 3. That means any changes that were made to the variables in the main, in the function, any changes that were made to the variables in the function swap were not reflected in main. So this is the second disadvantage that I was talking about. So this is the disadvantage of using call by value. This disadvantage we can overcome by using call by reference. So now we will see call by reference. In order to understand the concept of call by reference, you should be clear with the concept of pointers. Now pointers I have already discussed, and you can check out my videos made on pointers. I will give the link in the description box. So in this video we will tell you how call by reference is made using pointers. Now basically you have a main, right? This is my main. Now within main I have my actual argument integer x. Then I say x equals to 20. Then I call a function. I make a function call whose name is change. And here I am passing the address, which is known as call by address also. So call by address or call by reference. You can also call it call by address, because you are not passing the value. What are you passing here? The address. The previous method was called call by values because you were directly passing the values, and this method is called by reference or address because here you are passing the address. The ampersand symbol, as I told you in my videos on pointers, represents the address of this variable. If I directly write x, that means the value of x. If I write like this, change x, that means I am talking of the value of x. But if I write change ampersand x, that means I am talking about the address of x. That means that location where x is stored in memory. So this is the difference between x and ampersand x. So in call by value I was saying change x. This is how I was calling, but in call by reference I am saying ampersand x. That is, I am calling by address. Hence it is known as the call by address or call by reference method. You can check my video on pointers to understand this concept better. So change ampersand x, this is the function call, right? This is my function call, and this time this is by address. This time this function call is called by address, right? I am passing the address of that variable where the value is stored. I am not directly passing the value of that variable. Now I say print f %d x. So printf, we print the value of x. X means the value of x and ampersand x means the value, the address of x. So here I am printing the value of x. Now we come to the function change, right? Here pointer variable we have taken p. Now this pointer variable is pointing to the memory location where x is stored. P is pointing to the location where x is stored. So if the memory location is 101, that means P is pointing to that particular memory location where x is stored, right? Whatever the value of x may be. So we pass the, like in call by value we were passing the value of argument, in call by reference or call by address we pass the address. What are we passing here? We are passing the address of variable. In call by value we were passing the value of variable, and in call by reference we are passing the address of variable. So ampersand x represents the address of the variable, and when we want some variable to point to that address we use the pointer variable like this. This is known as the pointer variable. So if I want P to point to that particular location where x is stored, that means P will store the memory location of that space where x is stored. So P points to that location where x is stored. So P is the pointer variable, and pointer variable is represented using a asterisk. So we are passing the address of variable x, and that address is stored in the pointer variable P. Next I say pointer variable P equals to pointer variable P plus 10. Now I will not return the value. So whatever changes are made still will be reflected in main. I am not returning any value here, but still whatever changes are made to the value of x, whatever changes are made to the variable P here will be reflected here. Now when the function change is called, this is the function call. So the moment I call this function, the control will skip the next statement and go here. From here line by line it will execute every statement. Now the address of variable x, what am I passing? The variable x address and not its value is passed into the function change. So here the address of x is passed. Only difference is that in call by value you were passing the value, here you are passing the address. So address of x is passed in this function. Okay. Now inside change variable P is declared as a pointer. Here you can see P is a variable, pointer variable of data type int. Now pointer variable means a variable which is pointing to what? To the memory, to that memory location where the argument or variable is stored. So P represents the address of x. That P is representing the address of x. Because how do I retrieve the value of x by reaching at that location where x is stored. So p is storing the address of x, hence it is known as the pointer variable, and a pointer variable is represented using p. So inside the function change, p is declared as a pointer variable because I want p to store the address of x. P is not storing the address of value of x. How? Why? Because I am not passing x, I am passing ampersand x. That means what am I passing? I am passing the address. So in order to store the address, you need to have a pointer variable. A simple variable cannot store the address of a variable. In order to store the address of a variable, we need a pointer variable. That is why we have declared p as a pointer variable of data type integer. If the value which is stored in x is of data type integer, so the pointer variable p's data type will also be integer. So now it is something like this. Say for example, the value of x is 20. The value of x is 20 and x is stored at a memory location 101. So if p is a pointer variable to x, so first of all x means 20, but when I say ampersand x, that means the address of x, which is 101. So you need to understand the difference here. X means the value of x and ampersand x means the address of x. So when I say x, that means 20, but when I say ampersand x, that means the address of x, which is 101. Now since I am passing the address of a variable and not the actual value of a variable, so to hold that address, I need to declare a pointer variable and not a simple variable. No simple variable can hold the address of another variable. Only a pointer variable can hold the address of another variable. So that means I need to declare a pointer variable. Why? Because p is now being assigned the value not 20. 20 is the actual value. What is p assigned here? P is assigned the address of 20. That means p is holding the address of 20 or x, means whatever value x may be having, x is storing the address of x. So the address of x is 101. So that means p is not a simple variable. It is not any regular variable. It is holding the address of another variable, not the value of that variable. So hence I need to declare p as a pointer variable. So basically p is pointing towards the address of x, that this is the address of the x. This is where you can find x. So p is storing the address of x because you passed the address, so you will store address only. No, in case of call by value, you were passing value, so you were receiving value only. But here if you are passing address, how can you receive value? If you are passing address, you will receive address only. So address will be stored in not a simple variable but in a pointer variable. So a pointer variable is declared like this, pointer p. Now what am I doing here? So now here you can see that whatever changes are being made are made to the memory location pointed by p. I am not making changes directly to the value. I am making changes to the memory location. P is a pointer variable. That means p is storing the value of the memory location where the actual value is stored. Since the address of x is 101 and the value of x is 20, so p is not storing the value of x, which is 20, but p is storing the address of x, which is 20, because p is a pointer variable. So whatever changes I make to pointer p will be reflected in the main by default, even if I do not return any value. So in the previous case you saw that changes made in the function changes made to the variable in the function, that is the swapping function which we had seen a and b, the changes which were made to a and b were not reflected in x and y, That means x and y were still 2 and 3, though in the function they had become now 3 and 2. But these changes were not reflected in main when we were not returning the values. So here you can see that these changes will be reflected in main also, even though we are not returning the values. So this disadvantage is overcome here with the help of pointer variables. How? Now if x is having the value 20 and the address of x is 101, and if p is the pointer variable, that means p is not storing the value of x, p is storing the address of x, which is 101, right? So when p is storing the address of 1, and when I say pointer p equals to pointer p plus 1, so that means pointer p plus 10, I'm sorry, pointer p equals to pointer p plus 10. That means whatever value is stored in the location pointed by p. What value is stored in the location pointed by p? 20. Right? P is pointing to memory location 101. So what value is stored at memory location 101? 20. So that means I am directly hitting the memory location and not the value, because value may change but the memory location the variable name may change. Here it is x, in main it can be a. So that way the changes won't be reflected if I don't return the value. But if I directly target the memory location, so memory location, so whatever changes will be made in the function would be reflected in the main also. So I say value that is stored, because memory location of x is 101, which is passed as argument. So memory location is not changing. Memory location was 101 in main also, and memory location is 101 in the function also. Right? The variable names are changing. Like in the call by value case, the variable name in main was x and the variable name in the function was a. But if I am not passing the value and I am passing the address, so address of x has been passed, which is 101 in main. So if the same address is passed in the function, so that means whatever changes will be made at this address will remain same. So even if you make the changes in the function, those changes will be reflected in main, because x is always residing in the memory location 101. So I say that add 10 to the value of this memory location. So this memory location has the value x, which is equals to 20. Which is equals to 20 right now. So I say add 10 to this value. So that means this is what I am saying. So that means 20 plus 10 will give you 30 now. So the whatever value is stored at this particular memory location is now becoming plus 10. So if it is 20, it will become 30. So that means now these changes will be reflected in main also. So when you run this program, you can try writing a printf in the main. As I've already told you, as we've already written, that in the main I have written int x equals to 20, then I call the function change $x, and then I print those changes in main. You see, in case of call by value also I was printing the changes in main, but they were not reflected. But here when you will run this program, you will see that the changes will be reflected, because I am not targeting the value, I am targeting the address. So the address remains same. So here is the main function, change pointer p. Now even though this function is not returning in value, the changes will be reflected when you run this program. So now you will see that earlier the value of x was 20, but after you call the function and then the return goes back to the program, that means you execute this statement, value of x will be 30 now, that is plus 10. This is because we used pointers, or we used call by reference, or we used call by address, because we are passing the value of address. So in that case I am saying whatever value is stored that in that address, this is what it means, whatever value is stored in this address incremented by 1. Now p, this is pointer p, this is pointer p. Now I am saying whatever value is stored at this location. Now the value is 20 here, incremented by 10. So when I increment it by 10, I get 30. So this is the memory location. I have incremented the value of its, I have incremented the value at this location by 10. So I get a 30. So immediately that memory location changes when made to this memory location are then immediately reflected in the main also. So this is the advantage of using pointers, and this is how you use call by address or call by reference.